Story time.
Once there was in a town a decree. As far as I know, this was some town in um, Czechoslovakia, Czech Republic, whatever it's. Anyway, a small town, a Jewish town, and the children started to get sick, and the rabbis made a what's called a shalat chalom. Shalat chalom means there's two different ways. There's a book which is called Shalat and Chuvot Min Hashamayim, questions and answers from heaven. And the way they would do it over there is they would ask a question. All the rabbis, they would all get together and they would fast and they would pray. They would put a piece of paper under their pillow. They would ask a question to God, go to sleep with that question, and they would wake up and the answer would be written on the page. That's one way. Another way is that they would have the same dream. They would have the same dream, and the dream would give them the answer. In any case, so they said there is a decree of a plague on the children, and everyone has to pray to God. You have to pray, fast and pray, and Shlomo, the butcher, he should lead the prayers. And so they got everybody together in the shul. Everybody was crying and praying. And someone said, "Where's Shlomo, the butcher? He has to come." He said, "Well, we told him to come, but he's taking his time. I don't know." So everybody's waiting. So the rabbis go to Shlomo, the butcher's house, and they knock on his door. And his wife said, "Shlomo doesn't feel good. He's not." They said, "Oh, come on. We just want to talk to him for a minute." They said, "Listen, the reason we asked you to come was because there's a decree on the children, and we're all praying, and we made a shalat chalom, we made a dream request, and they said that you should lead the prayers." So Shlomo the butcher said, "Listen, please, rabbis, don't make fun of me. I'm really ashamed. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Please leave me alone. I don't want." They said, "Come on, you're the only one that's saved." So listen, rabbis, I don't want to say this. I mean, you're forcing me. I don't know. I don't really know how to read. I don't know how to read. I've tried before, and I just, numbers, I can figure out the numbers a little bit, because I have my store, but I don't really know how to read, certain. So they said, "Listen, that's what we got. We have the request that you have to lead the prayers. You stand up there and we'll tell you what to say. You just repeat after us." So he said, "Okay, all right." So they go. Oh, he comes into the synagogue and everybody's happy. "Oh, thank you for coming with it. Thank you with this." And the rabbis put him up on the podium, and he looks around and he just tears up, runs out of the place, pushes the way out, opens the door, runs away, runs out. So the rabbi said, "What are we going to do? I don't know. He doesn't want to pray. He's going to put him up on the stage. He's not going to pray. He doesn't want to do it. What are we going to do? Let's make another Shalat Chalom. Maybe we'll go to sleep, we'll do it again." All of a sudden they hear a noise coming in, and here comes in Shlomo with a wheelbarrow, and on the wheelbarrow are his scales, the scales that he uses in his meat store. He's the butcher, he weighs out the meat. So he comes with the scales, the wheelbarrow, and with great effort, he pulls the wheelbarrow up, the stairs on the podium, and he takes the scales with great effort and he lifts it up. The scales, he lifts them up, and he says, "God, take the scales. Take my scales. Please, just save the children. Just save the children. Stop the decree. Take my scales. Take my scales." And people run up and they help him because he's floundering with this thing. They help him, and they put it down, and he bursts out crying, and he's weeping and he's crying. He's weeping and he's crying. Just 1 second, somebody's calling me up. 5 דקות, תצלצל, 5 דקות, אני באמצע משהו, טוב? סליחה, 5 דקות. So he holds it up and he's weeping and he's crying. He falls down and he's weeping, and everybody in the place is crying and they're weeping. And suddenly the women come in and they say, "The children are better. My son is better. Everyone's coming in. There's something. What did you do? The decree has been lifted. Everyone's happy and they're rejoicing and they're taking the shlomo and they're putting them on their shoulders and they're rejoicing. So the rabbis say to him afterwards, you did it. You did it, Shlomo. You did it. We had this dream, and you're the one that did it. But what did you have to bring your scales in for? What was the scales for? He said, well, listen, I got up there on the beam, on the podium, the beam it's called. And I thought, what does God want me to pray for? Come on, I mean, I don't know better than anybody else, and they're going to tell me what to say. So I'm going to say what I say. But there must be some reason that God wants me specifically to do it. And he thought, maybe I know what it is. Maybe my scales. Said, I check my scales like maybe 10 times a day to see if they're accurate or not. My scales and my weights, I have two sets of weights. One set of weights I use, the other set of weights I never use so that they never get scratched or never, nothing gets added onto them. So I always measure it out to see it. So that maybe 5-10 times a day, every day I measure it. So my scales are exact. So I figured because that must be the thing that's unusual. Usually the people don't check their scales like that. I was told that, once a month, I check them. That's probably the reason why that God wants. So I said, take my scales, and it must have worked. So the rabbi said, well, that's pretty amazing. That's pretty good, Well, so the rabbis got together. They said, listen, there's a lot of other, store owners, religious in this community, and they're all honest people. Let's go by them and see. So they went by them. There's each one of them checked their scales like once a month. Some would check their scales twice a month. You don't have to check anymore. The scales, they were these, big pieces of iron you put on one side. How much did it lose weight or gain weight? And not only that, if it loses weight, so that's okay, it loses weight. That's right. In any case, so how much could they? But nevertheless, Shlomo was so careful with his scales that he was careful not to take even a penny if the thing is like scratched a little bit. So it means that it'll say it weighs a pound, but really it's a little bit less than a pound. So that it'll be stealing a little tiny fraction of a nothing. He said no, because he was so careful. So then he said that those scales were put in a glass case on the podium or the foot of the podium, and they were there. They say until World War II. Until the Germans came and destroyed everything, that those skills were there. I think it happened in Prague. True story. It shows that we have to be careful, and the more we do for the Creator, the more the Creator will do for us. Have a good day with Moshiach Now. Thank you very much for coming. See you all tomorrow.